Hey everyone, Wade's not here this week, so I'll be doing it by myself. Yay. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about something that's actually quite special to me. It was also the first topic that I ever published a video on. That is the Huskarl Homebrew for 5th edition. If you're interested in playing the class, then you can pick it up on the DM's Guild. It's pay what you want, so feel free to download it free. Just as a heads up though, it hasn't actually been playtested. Although I had been intending for that to happen, but someone decided that they wanted to play a wizard. So I'm not terribly sure how well balanced it is. I tried my best, but if we're being honest, well, if I'm being honest, then I only have around 2-ish years experience playing Dungeons & Dragons, so more likely than not, I have no idea what I'm talking about. If you have any concerns, improvements, or issues as to how the class currently is, please bring them up so that I can at least think of some way to fix them or clarify them further. For the Huskarl, similar to how we did the Aborson class when we covered it last time on Downtime, we'll be splitting it up in several parts, one for the basic information for the class, and one for each of its archetypes. I may end up making another video if people need it, or if people want it, because the Rune Lord has some complicated features that I'm not going to cover in full during its video, so I'll go over that in a moment. Before we get into it, I figure I should give a little bit of backstory as to the origin of this homebrew though. I promise that I'll try to be brief about it. So the Huskarl came up around the time that For Honor was released. I've never played it. Wade came up to me one day and said, "Hey, do you think it's possible to make a D&D class sort of like the Huskarl from For Honor, revolving around using shield play and the like?" And me being me, I was kind of like, I mean, we can try? That's basically how it all came about. Outside of any influences though, the Huskarl might be easily recognized as the Anglicanized term Housecarl, which if you've played Skyrim, you would be more aware, or at least you'd be aware that it was a sort of manservant that acts as a bodyguard. So I decided that I would try to emulate that aspect as best as possible while designing the class. With that out of the way, let's get into the bare bones of the class, so with the hit points, proficiencies, and starting equipment. The Huskarl has a D10 hit dice, which puts it on the health potential on par with Fighter, Paladin, and Ranger. It's a good starting point for a generic martial class, I feel. The hit points calculate as they would normally be, so I won't get into the specifics around those. As for proficiencies, the class is only proficient with medium and heavy armor as well as shields, along with simple weapons and melee martial weapons. This does limit the class a bit, as it essentially has no useful options for a character if they want to be more ranged orientated. But the idea of staying at range conflicts with the idea of emulating a bodyguard and focusing on shield play. They are also proficient with Wisdom and Constitution saving throws, as well as 2 skills of their choice from Athletics, Insight, Intimidation, Perception, History, and Survival. Their starting equipment options are as follows. Either A. Chainmail, or B. Hide armor and a simple melee weapon, a martial weapon and a shield, along with their choice of 2 simple melee weapons, or a short sword and a dagger. Additionally, they get to choose from a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. As you can tell, this setup is quite standard, with nothing terribly out of the ordinary. As a side note, I haven't really given much thought as to how much gold the class would get if they were to do an equipment buy system, but I recommend mimicking the most common value for starting gold, so 5d4 times 10. With that out of the way, we'll move on to the actual features for the class, starting with their first level features. The Huskarl's first feature at level 1 is Defensive Counter. It's pretty straightforward. As an ability, it's quite similar to the Battlemaster's Riposte, without the extra damage, but it's always active, so it might be a bit more powerful at level 1. I'm not terribly sure. So Defensive Counter makes it so that when a creature misses the Huskarl with a melee attack, they can use their reaction to make a melee attack against the creature. As I said, it's essentially the Riposte ability without the extra damage from the superiority dice. The feature does compare quite nicely with the other level 1 feature to paint a quite obvious picture as to what the class is all about. The other level 1 feature for the Huskarl is a fighting style of their choice from defense, protection, and dueling. At this point you can probably tell that the Huskarl is focused more on being up in the front lines protecting others, but it still comes with some offensive options for more aggressive plays. Unflinching Resolve is the class's second level ability. It's quite similar to the Fighter's Second Wind and the Goliath's Stone Endurance. It allows the Huskarl to, as a reaction, reduce the damage that they take from an attack by 1d10 plus their Huskarl level, with the limit of doing so once per short rest. As might be starting to become more obvious, this class is designed to be highly reactive and makes more use of reactions than is typically the norm. This makes their level 5 feature quite potent. Third level, they get they get the Huskarl archetype. They get additional features at several levels. I believe it's 7th, 10th, 15th, and 18th. Then at level 4, they get their ability score improvements like any other class. It works the same as normal, and they're granted at the standard rate, so 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th level. Completely standard, so I'll just move on to the next feature. At level 5, instead of gaining an extra attack around, like most martial classes do, the Huskarl instead gains an extra reaction that can only be used for attacks of opportunity or Huskarl class features. They only gain these extra reactions while they were wielding a shield. They also gain additional reactions at 11th level and end up with a total of 4 reactions after 20th level. Explicitly stating that these reactions can only be used for attacks of opportunity and Huskarl class features is that limited, of course. However, as it's currently worded, I do believe that it would possibly synergize a bit too strongly with Warcaster, although I feel like a 5-level dip probably isn't going to be worth the extra reaction granted. I'm also not quite happy with the level 20 ability just being yet another reaction, but as it hopefully becomes clear as I talk about the other features of the class, it is kind of the best thing that I could have given them. The first explicitly supportive ability that the class gains is Protect at level 6. If the Huskarl is wielding a shield, when a creature within 5 feet of them has to make a dexterity saving throw against a spell that does not target the Huskarl as well, they can use their reaction to grant the creature advantage on the saving throw. If the creature fails the saving throw, the Huskarl takes half the damage the creature would, and naturally the creature still takes their full damage. At 12th level, the ability improves so that they can grant advantage even if they are also target for the spell. I don't really have much to say about this, so I'll just move on to the final ability for the class. Rounding off the features for the base class is Shield Combat at 9th level. The Huskarl is considered proficient with their shield while it's being used as a weapon, and it sets the damage dice to a d6, bludgeoning. It's important to point out that due to my understanding of the rules, which may be wrong, and if so, please correct me, that this does not make the dueling fighting, completely useless, as the shield will not be classified as a weapon until you make an attack with it. At which point you would lose the AC bonus of the shield as well as the bonus damage from the fighting style, and you would regain these bonuses when you started using your shield as it's intended to be, so a shield again. This feature gets an improvement at level 13, which gives the player a few abilities that they can use in combat if they are wielding a shield. First is Bash, which allows the Huskarl to use the shove action against a creature within 5 feet of them as a bonus action if they have taken an attack action. So it's essentially half of the Shield Master feat, or whatever that's called. The other ability is called Intercept. Intercept allows the Huskarl to use their reaction when a creature within 5 feet of them is the target for an attack, to attempt to intercept the blow. In order to do so, they must make a dexterity check against the DC that is equal to the armor class of the target of the attack. If you successfully do so, you end up the target for the attack instead. I'm having thoughts about changing this slightly, as it has the exact same conditions as the protection fighting style, so it's likely that a player may rely on one more than the other, or only use Intercept when they're trying to protect a creature that has health that's quite low, or AC that is relatively easy to overcome. So those are the base features for the Huskarl, hopefully relatively straightforward and easy to understand. If you'd be interested in playing the class after just hearing about these features, then please go to the DM's Guild and download the class, test it out and let me know how it plays. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if there's anything you want me to look at or make, or even how I can improve my content. Don't forget to check out the Verger and the Runelord videos for information on those archetypes. Cheers!